In the 1930s, a young black man named Jesse Owens runs through the streets of Cleveland, Ohio. He dashes through the slums and enters a dilapidated neighborhood house. He begins collecting his belongings as he prepares to move out of his parents' house. He looks around for his lone shirt as his mother, happy of her first son leaving for college, finishes making a lovely suit coat for him. Jesse is scared it would be too expensive, but Mom pushes, saying he was intended to achieve great things. He says farewell to his father and presents him with a $2 envelope.
Things are gonna turn.
After DAS, a track race is taking place in a major college stadium, and Coach Larry Snyder is not doing well. Ohio State loses the match, and radio pundits ask if Coach Snyder is afraid about his employment because he has not won any national championships while at Ohio State. Larry arrives at his office on campus, irritated and grumpy, and his secretary brings in his day's appointments and files of fresh blood, all future track stars, including Jesse Owens. In the next scene, Jesse's next trip before taking the bus to Ohio State is to meet his girlfriend, Ruth, and their little daughter. Ruth works in a salon, and Jesse's looks deserves a severe glance from her supervisor. Jesse promises to return and marry Ruth whenever circumstances improve. Jesse's buddy, Dave, who is also going to Ohio State, encourages him to hurry and get on the bus. Jesse says farewell, boards the bus, and they are off. Then we see Dave and Jesse are running on the school's track as Larry times them. After their exercise, Dave and Jesse proceed to the locker room and are ready to shower when the all-white football team enters. They use racist insults and push Dave and Jesse to let the football team shower first. Jesse, not wanting to get in trouble, accepts this as his fate, albeit Dave is furious. While they wait, a young guy informs Jesse that Coach Larry wants to see him. Jesse, sweaty and dirty and unable to shower, puts on his clothes and walks to Larry's office. Then, Larry welcomes him to the workplace.
Me personally, I don't trust naturals.
But Jesse refuses to look him in the eye. Larry also surprises Jesse by inviting him to sit in the chair opposite him. After some small conversation about past successes, Coach Larry asks if Jesse can work and tells him he has to focus on his manners, since he should look a guy in the eye when he speaks to them. Jesse claims he can work, and his records should support this. Larry says records don't mean anything because a youngster will come along and take them away from you. Medals are what matters. Jesse discovers a photo of an Olympic squad and inquires whether it is genuine. Larry confirms that it is the Olympic track squad from Paris, 1924. But Larry wasn't present. He inquires whether Jesse will travel to Berlin for the 1936 Summer Olympics. Jesse wants to, but his coach insists on his commitment. When he is not in class, he must be on the track. The coaches are keeping an eye on the fresh blood on the track, and Larry believes Jesse is doing well. They time him on the 100-meter dash, and despite his poor starting position, he runs 9-something seconds. The coaches are impressed. In New York City, the U.S. Olympic Committee is having a meeting. They are concerned about the rumors coming out of Germany under the Nazi government and are debating whether or not to boycott the 1936 Games in Berlin. They eventually agree to send a delegate to Berlin to assess the situation and make sure the Nazis play fair. They decide to send Avery Brundage, who is somewhat reluctant but wants to move forward with the games and doesn't put a lot of stock into the rumors about the Germans and their Jewish problem and racial discrimination. Jesse is back at Ohio State and training hard.
A shorter stride means more.
In a letter to Ruth, he discusses a job he obtained at a filling station and how difficult it is to balance practice, employment, and school. But he is doing it. He sends $2 and mentions having sought for a marriage license. Coach catches up with Jesse and is upset because he has been missing practice. Jesse confesses that he needs to work to support his newborn child. Larry is stunned by the news. "You did not tell me you have a daughter. You did not ask." In Berlin, Avery is escorted to the stadium, currently under construction, and sees Jews being tossed from their homes, loaded onto trucks, and signs everywhere that say "Germans defend yourself," and other anti-Semitic propaganda. At the sports club, he meets Dr. Joseph Goebbels. a couple of other German Olympics officials, and Leni Riefenstahl. Ms. Riefenstahl was handpicked by the Führer to film the proceedings at the Olympics. Avery begins to speculate about what the Olympics might be like without American engagement, and the Nazis are particularly interested in soothing the Americans. The issue is not with the infrastructure, but with politics. Avery accused them of exploiting the Olympics to spread negative stereotypes about Jews and non-Aryan races. An agreement is reached, the press is reined in, anti-Jewish posters are removed, and individuals are no longer being shipped out of their homes. Back in Ohio, Jesse visits Coach Larry's office, where Larry hands him a legislative page ID.
Takes home $60 a month plus expenses.
The position pays $60 per month, and all Jesse needs to do is train. A win-win scenario. Jesse's training begins in earnest, with the coach teaching him to start low and improve his technique and tempo. After practice, the team washes, and the football team enters. After distracting Jesse during practice, the instructor pushes them into throwing nasty obscenities to give him a lesson. Shut it out. He receives the message loud and clear. He later celebrates with several pals, all of whom encourage each other to participate in a jumping contest. Jesse becomes arrogant and jumps over a pole, but falls and injures himself. Coach is furious with him, but tells him to rest for 3 days, and he might be ready to compete in Ann Arbor.
And I'll be right this ring. You've got 3 days.
3 days later, the 1935 Big Ten is held in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Jesse is clearly wounded, yet he persists on competing. If his back does not make it through the 100 yards, the dash coach can remove him. He takes his spot on the track amidst loud boos from the prejudiced white spectators, but he ignores them. He finishes first with 9.3 seconds on the coach's watch. The officials refuse to acknowledge the new world record, insisting that his time was 9.4. Coach is furious, but Jesse brushes it off and moves on. He goes to do the wide jump and looks around the track. He asks an official what the world record is, then requests a handkerchief and places it at the record line. He makes the jump and sets a new world record. The 200-yard sprint comes next, and he establishes a new national record. He participates in the hurdles, another NWR. By now, the audience is going crazy and applauding for him. On the way home, he is overjoyed with his victories. Coach informs him that he has also established a new school record for the most points scored in a meet. This cracker coach says, "You know what they say about records. Some kid will come along and take it from you." Jesse quotes Larry's own words. June 25th, 1935. Ohio State is competing in Los Angeles, and Eulace is the player to watch out for. When the bus arrives, the press questions the crew about how it feels to be the world's fastest person. Jesse dominates the competition in Los Angeles, so he must be feeling terrific. Jesse, Dave, and another friend head to a jazz club after the race. Quincella, a girl wearing a pink dress, enters. The boys don't think Jesse has a chance with her, but to their surprise, she recognizes him and approaches him first. She has problems written all over her, but Jesse falls hard. In Germany, Avery is following up on his demands for the Berlin Olympics. He says things seem swell and vows his support. He is also presented with a financial opportunity. He is a builder, and the Nazis want him to construct the new German embassy in Washington, D.C. It would be a massive deal, and they insisted to Avery that it is not a bribe, but rather the hiring of the greatest constructor in America for their project. He brings up a few design flaws and appears to accept the bargain. In Nebraska, Jesse and Quincella get a telegram. Ruth appears to have seen Jesse and Quincella's warm and tight relationship, and she is unhappy and threatens to sue Jesse. He is preoccupied during his track meet and loses against Eulace Peacock. Coach comes by to discuss what occurred. Jesse is brusque and in the midst of a pity party, claiming he was simply having a horrible day. They start chatting about relationships, and Jesse asks if Larry has ever been married. Larry claims he is presently separated from his wife, and his kid is nearly grown. His primary emphasis was coaching, not his family. Jesse responds, "You never told me you had a daughter."
You never told me you had a daughter.
When the squad boards the bus to return to Ohio, Quincella arrives and prepares to follow the team and drive Jesse back. He moves her belongings into her car and breaks up with her. She's irritated and departs soon. Jesse says he has some explaining to do at home. Jesse returns home and visits Ruth's salon to apologize and offers marriage.
Well, I'm done waiting.
She shuts him down. He walks outdoors and waits all day in the rain for her to leave work. She chastises him for missing races. He replies he'd rather skip races and work at a gas station if it meant spending his days with her. He proposes again and wishes to marry that day, and this time she accepts. He dashes out to get someone to conduct the wedding for them. Back in New York, the U.S. Olympic Committee is voting. Jeremiah claims that they must vote against participating in the games, as a vote against participation is a vote against tyranny. Avery encourages everyone to vote for the dream of participation, thinking of the athletes and what this could mean for them. In the end, the vote is close, with 58 in support of going and 56 in favor of boycott. In Ohio, an NAACP representative visits the Owens house to try to persuade Jesse not to go to Berlin, citing the necessity to show the Nazis that their discrimination is intolerable. Jesse's father disagrees. The next morning, Jesse is out for a jog when Larry approaches him in his car. He gets out with a cane and encourages Jesse to give himself the option of going to Berlin by attending the Olympic trials. Jesse qualified for 3 events at the Olympic trials.
York, Mr. Owens, you've qualified.
The conversation at the news conference alternates between sports and politics. 2 of the track team members are Jewish, and then there's Jesse and Dave. How can they participate given the discrimination abroad and at home? It isn't a pretty press meet. Afterward, Coach Larry tries to get the Olympic coaches to bring him on as an additional coach for Jesse. They won't have any of it. On the way back to his hotel, Jesse runs into Eulace Peacock. He tore his hamstring and is never going to run again. He says to go to Berlin just to stick it to Hitler. At the hotel, Jesse is having a hard time sleeping and wakes Ruth. He is worried that he will lose, and then Hitler will be right. She tells him to stop thinking, he's not very good at it, and to just run. The next morning he packs up, gets a special locket, and he takes a small lock of his daughter's hair. On the boat, he turns when Coach Larry starts talking to him. He's glad that Coach is there. When Larry goes to leave, Jesse stops him because he's headed in the wrong direction. Everyone is up there in first class. On my own dime, I'm in steerage with you and Dave. Ms. Riefenstahl is in Berlin, showing the Olympic Committee the first scenes of her promotional film. She requests no boundaries. She wants to tape every event and need 46 cameras. Dr. Goebbels reminds her that these are his games. She reminds him that it's her film. Without it, no one would remember the games a year later. In July 1936, the American team arrives in Berlin and receives royal treatment at the Olympic Village. Marty and Sam wave their David stars in the faces of the Nazi security guards, and everyone is startled to see no colored dorms or tables. During dinner, everyone sits together, whites and blacks side by side. Miss Riefenstahl shows her finished film of the running of the torch, and Dr. Goebbels loves it. Ms. Riefenstahl is encouraged. Jesse and Dave go out to practice and prepare for the games, but the U.S. team's trainers are terrible and racist. Coach Larry confronts Jesse later, asking, "Did you really tell Dean he's not fit to train fleas on a dog?" He did. They are ambushed by the other coaches while attempting to settle the argument. Dean insisted on an apology. Jesse insists on Coach Larry, or he won't compete. Hopefully they enjoy singing the German national song. They relent, and Coach Larry is appointed as coach. Larry believes this is a strange way to thank him. Awards would be preferable. He asks Jesse about his new shoes, but Jesse replies they never arrived.
Hey, how are the new shoes I ordered you from England?
Coach Larry goes looking for the shoe shop where the shoes were supposed to come from. He gets totally turned around and ends up walking up on a group of Nazi soldiers, forcing a Jewish family into a military truck. He's finally able to communicate to one of the soldiers that he's an American, has papers, is with the Olympic team, and is looking for a shoe place. The soldier guides him off, though Larry can't stop looking back at the truck. Larry can't stop thinking about Jesse on the morning of the Olympics. Jesse, on the other hand, is completely relaxed and serene. They set off for the stadium, which is massive, packed with people, and has a Zeppelin floating overhead. Everyone stands as Hitler enters the stadium. Jesse puts on his new shoes, looks at his wife's image in the locket, and prepares the track. He comfortably wins the 100-meter dash, earning his first gold medal. Avery congratulates him and takes him to meet someone special. He guides Jesse past the crowd of several dozen high-ranking Nazi officers. They encounter Dr. Goebbels, who ignores Jesse. They are informed that Hitler had to depart early to avoid traffic and will not be meeting Jesse. At least, this is what the translation says. Goebbels really questions how Hitler could be expected to shake hands with that. Avery is outraged. The American team enjoys a modest celebration to wind down for the day. Jesse catches a sight of Carl Long, a legendary wide jumper. He's the person to beat in broad leaping because he has all of the European records. Larry goes over the tight regulations they have for broad leaping in these games, but Jesse appears preoccupied. Luce easily qualifies for the following day's qualifying event. Jesse, up next, proceeds to spy out the track as he did in Ann Arbor, but is fouled when he walks over the line to get a good look at the rack.
It's a foul!
It is counted as his first try. His second attempt is likewise marked since he does not jump at the appropriate time. Luce notices this and grabs a towel, placing it at the side of the jumping lane so Jesse knows where to jump from. Jesse succeeds on his third attempt. He catches up with Luce and praises him for his assistance. The broad jump is ultimately decided between Luce and Jesse. Luce does well, according to his normal, but then Jesse passes him with a distance of 7.74 meters.
7.7!
On his second jump, Luce makes it to 7.78 meters, a new European record. Jesse takes his second jump, 7.94 meters. Luce goes for his third attempt, but stumbles at the last second and fouls out of the last attempt. The game is in the bag for Jesse. He doesn't need the last attempt, but Luce insists he do his best. On his third jump, Jesse lands an 8.60-meter jump, a new Olympic record.
0.06 meters!
After the medals are awarded and anthems played, Luce suggests they take the lap of honor together. This is career suicide for Luce, as he goes around the track arm in arm with Jesse. Ms. Riefenstahl's cameraman asks what Luce is doing. His career is over. She says he's making her film. At the end of the day, Jesse gets beers and takes them to Luce's room. They sit and chat for a while. Jesse says Luce's girlfriend is pretty. Are there any ugly girls in Germany? Luce says yes. They just keep the ugly things hidden. He discusses several of the terrible things the government is doing, as well as a girl who was delivered to his room the night before with orders to become pregnant. Jesse wonders if Luce will get in trouble for the antics he pulled earlier in the day. Luce tells Jesse to win the 200-meter dash, not for any political purposes, but for Luce. It would make losing to Jesse that day a little easier to accept. The next day, everyone at home gathers around radios to listen to Jesse's final race. Ms. Riefenstahl's team, on the other hand, is not set up or prepared to film in Berlin. They've been ordered not to film the race. She sends them out quickly, and they hurry to their posts and getting rolling just in time. She goes to the big wig box with Dr. Goebbels and Hitler and points a camera right at them rather than at the race. She's going to catch their reaction as Jesse easily wins his third gold medal. After the race, Avery and Ms. Riefenstahl find themselves alone with Dr. Goebbels. She went to insist that the good doctor not tells her crew what to do. Dr. Goebbels asks her to translate for him as he talks about being a good party guest to Avery. He makes it known that the hosts are offended that their guests have not treated them with respect and tells Avery that the Jewish boys can't run in the 400-meter relay race. Avery basically says the hell they can't, but Goebbels reminds him of the business deal they have. How would the U.S. Olympic Committee feel about Avery's endorsement of the Berlin Games if they knew about the business deal they had? Avery caves.
Wir haben eine Vereinbarung getroffen.
The U.S. team has a short meeting, alleging that the Germans have been holding back their best runners and are now scared that they will need to change up the lineup. Sam and Marty are out, and Dave and Jesse are in. Sam and Marty call it bull. They know it's because they're Jewish. Jesse refuses to run, and the team appears to be at an impasse. When Jesse arrives at the fencing ring, Coach Larry is sitting and thinking. They start talking, and the coach talks about flying airplanes. He claims that what onlookers enjoy most is the potential crash and the resulting carnage, rather than the excitement of takeoff and flight. Turns out he crashed his plane before the 1924 Olympics and woke up 3 weeks after the crash with a newspaper clipping about the gold medal winners. His dad called him some kind of idiot for blowing his chances at the Olympics. He gives Jesse the clipping and leaves. Jesse opens it and sees that across the news story is written, "Next time." That evening, Sam and Marty go to Jesse's room and tell him not to lose the relay race, giving him permission to run it. That next day, at the relay race, the team sets a new world record. 39.8 seconds. Hitler doesn't show up for the race. Jesse is packing up his room, his 4 gold medals a major deal because it had not been done in decades, when Coach Larry walks in. He glances over one of the medals and smiles, pleased of Jesse. Ms. Riefenstahl arrives and begs Jesse for a favor. She wants to videotape him performing the wide jump. After a few takes, he questions whether this isn't cheating.
You did make that jump. We all saw it.
While the final scene plays out, subtitles detailing what happened to the characters in the film are played. 3 years later, in September 1939, Germany attacked Poland, starting World War II. Eulace was pushed into military duty and deployed to the front lines. He and Jesse remained friends and spoke until Eulace was killed in combat in 1943. People lined the streets to welcome Jesse home from the 1936 Olympics, but the White House never officially honored Jesse or his accomplishments. This lovely film concludes here. Larry Snyder continued to coach at Ohio State until his retirement. Several of his athletes went on to be major record holders. He went to the Olympics in Rome in 1960 as the track coach. Jesse and Ruth had 3 daughters and remained married until his death from lung cancer in 1980. Jesse was posthumously awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. If you enjoy the video, please subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments section the next movie I will recap for you.